Alright, we're back. Today we're going to be working on the rear firewall for the car, and probably next video we'll be working on the actual two rear structure. But for today we're going to be working in the back here and sealing this up. We have this radium 6-gallon fuel cell we're going to be installing. Side note, I got a S15 dash to put in the car, so that's just hanging out here. This thing is starting to grow on me, but we're probably going to be cutting it in half and making it float, which I think will look better. So to start, there's a couple tools that I used. Obviously, I got cardboard aided design. A rear firewall is exactly what it sounds like. It's just like your front firewall, separating your engine from your cabin, except this is going to be in the rear, and it's going to separate your fuel fumes and hazards, possibly your coolant spilling from the inside. And so there has to be a separation here, and then the glass, or some people, if you have a hatchback, just cover the whole thing with sheet metal work. To start this off, I do have this contour tool. So you can see here that these are made of these little pins, and they'll make that contour to whatever shape or angle that you need. I got scissors and a pen, and the way I worked about this, I just use this contour tool to make the shape of the C-pillar in the back. I put that on paper, and as you can see here, there's a few different pieces of paper. I sectioned this out. I did the bottom section first. I want it to go up here and not totally block off the strut, because I'm going to put the cage plates here, and I don't feel like resealing the cage or resealing the firewall around the cage. So we're going to make it a little different. It's going to go around the edge of the strut tower, it's going to come up here, and then it's going to go up the C-pillar. So it's a little tricky. So what I did was I sectioned it out, I built a piece here, I taped it, and then I built the next section, taped it, because if you work off of one big piece, it's kind of hard to orientate all the angles and make it flow well together. This way it kind of makes it idiot proof. So now we have all these pieces taped together, and as you can see, it's going to go something like this, and it's going to angle up here, and it fits pretty good. Now, once you get your general shape figured out, you're going to want your actual rough dimension of the metal you're going to be working with, or the actual measurement of the width and height and overall material you need. And that's where I taped up this actual mock-up piece for the paper that I'm going to be using eventually on the actual metal trace up. And so I'm going to take my little rig here, and I went ahead and traced it onto this. So it goes on like that. So this looks a lot better. This is kind of like my final concept. And that way this will be the same shape as the sheet metal, and you can actually test out how close you are. So now that you have this much larger piece to deal with, you're also going to take into account. So now that we have our much larger piece, we have to take into account where the fuel cell is going to be sitting, and in this case it's dead center. So we're going to want this running all the way across. However, I needed to put some bends in it, and my bendy boy isn't that long, so I opted to cut it into two pieces, and the center piece is going to be what seals the fuel cell from the inside. Now, since we're going to be making this firewall that's following the body line here, it has a couple of bends to make before it lands in the final spot right here. We're going to have two bends. One is going to be here at the tower, that's going to go aft, and then there's going to be a second bend here at the top of the deck lid, and that's going to shoot the decks vertical at a 90 degree, so it can meet up with the windowsill where we will tie off our window, and that's going to seal off the whole rear firewall. So after measuring, we're going to mark across where we're going to make our bends on both sides. Because remember, one bend is going to go one direction and the second bend is going to kick it back the opposite direction to make the panel 90 degrees vertical. So now I'm going to flip it over and we're going to scribe the line across on this side. Real quick, I almost forgot. The paper template that I made was very small, and there's a reason for that. I only did one side of the car because it'll take up less material to make the part, and at the same time, I can mirror flip it to the other side, so I don't need to make a 5-foot long paper mache project and fiddle around with it around in the garage. The more you know. We got this Swag Off-Road press adapter that's in the Harbor Freight 20-ton. That's what we're gonna use today for our little bending job. This is way overkill, but this is kind of the easiest thing that I've got to make precise bends repeatedly. So we're just gonna take this line and we're gonna line it up with the tooling here. And I put this air over hydraulic pump in so we can just use a compressor. Fuck! Well, I guess the reason it stopped fitting so well is because I bent it the wrong direction. So this bend is supposed to go across like this, but instead it's going vertical like that. And so the panel is kicking inward, whereas this bend should be here. So now I gotta try and salvage this piece or just completely scrap it. But I basically gotta relax this bend all the way back flat, which I don't think I can do without leaving a permanent impression on there, so. Okay, crisis mostly averted. The side that's gonna be kind of facing the back of the car, you can see the metal difference now, but once it's all like coated and all that, it's flat, 90%. The back side is gonna be hidden with the cage and all that. I just really didn't feel like cutting up a whole new sheet and all that stuff. Anyways, yeah, this is gonna fit now because it's the right direction, so that's good. Start with that. Kind of hard to show on camera without extra arms, but I mean, hopefully you get the gist. Here's kind of what we're looking at from the outside. You can see I was trying my best to line up this bend seam. And I got this arch here because the window I think it's gonna have a decent arch. I don't know how much yet, so I just gonna leave some extra here for kind of the bubble of the window. And so next what we need to do is probably make the little side panels for the centerpiece. And that's what's gonna seal off these center sections. And then we'll be that much closer to actually getting these all welded up and sealed off.
Okay, right now I got some more Clecos holding this panel in, and I got some tacks here in the corner for the centerpiece to kind of be held together where I want it to be at. I found these cool little holders online on the TikTok shop or whatever they're called. These are actually tile clamps or tile spacers is what they call them. And so they're a little easier to work with than the traditional sheet metal body clamps that you'd get at Harbor Freight or something. So I have everything tacked up, kind of mocked in place so I don't have to rely on all the magnets, and just did some small tacks. That way it'll stay in place, but I can still take it back apart so I can kind of prep the car for welding it all together. But anyways, these side panels I made out of paper templates, just like the side panels that go into the C-pillar. So these bits kind of go in here like that, and then I cut them out. And then I cut them out and put them into sheet metal. So there's that contour that's gonna go down in there like that. Next, I got this all mocked up here. This piece is actually just resting in here. It just happens to fit pretty good, so it looks like it's permanent. I'm gonna tack weld this up and do that on both sides. Here's what it looks like on the other side, empty. Well, everything's gonna get tacked in place, and then I will remove this whole rear panel and prep the car just like I did here, all along the sides. And I'm gonna use, where is it? And I'm gonna use this weld through primer, this copper stuff that's been working out really well for me. Because what I noticed is when the fuel cell is gonna go in here, this side is all gonna be exposed and the inside is gonna be sealed obviously, but water is gonna come down here and into this crack and pool up. So I'm gonna do my best to paint everything and seal everything the best of my ability, because water is gonna pool up there. All the other ideas I thought of sealing this kind of area off kind of involved an absurd amount of work for something that will probably still have water pooling up underneath the fuel cell somewhere. So what I'm gonna do is paint and prep and seal all this off 100%, and then I'm just gonna drill some drain holes and I'll seal those off, like the bare metal in the hole. I'll seal those off so it'll still drain the water out here as it collects, but in theory, it should be the best thing that I could think of. I mean, we'll see what happens. Alrighty, I went ahead and welded everything that I could while it was in position, except for to the chassis. And I did this after the fact because I noticed that the metal was bowing just a little bit in the center. But I guess this would have been good to do beforehand. Better late than never. I put it on when it was still hot. And here's how it looks from the outside. I kind of burnt through in a couple areas, but
this is all gonna get ground down. So what's next is gonna be marking the car off on where it needs to get down to bare metal, and then I'm gonna pull all this out and then grind down the paint. Now that this piece is out, we can go over all these edges, cut down the extra material here and there, and then flap disc this stuff down. Get that final product. And then in here we can see all the pink lines is where we're gonna have to come down to bare metal. All right, we made some developments here. We got the car all painted up where it's going to get welded all the way up the sides. It doesn't look the prettiest, but I did kind of try to save some of this weld through primer because it is pretty expensive. It's like $50, so. Here's the panel. Panel's also kind of painted just where I won't be able to access it in the future, and it is going to get welded along these edges. Kind of gave it a nice little finish with the DA on both sides. Looks pretty slick, like a big bat wing or something. And watch how this slips in. Just like that. Now we can see the contrast a little better since the paint has been added. And this is just resting in here. It's sitting pretty good even in person. Pretty proud of it. And then you can see if I lift this up, you can see the little drain holes. There's one in each corner. So when this gets all welded up, after the car gets coated, it's gonna have like sealant, caulking or whatever in here, because I know this is gonna be a pretty hard hitting spot with moisture, and so it needs to seal it, otherwise it's gonna go inside or it's gonna rust it out. So those drain holes are gonna have to put in some serious work. Well, now I'm just gonna utilize those last couple of cleco holes that I left open to hold this thing up in place, and we're gonna start tacking it up and then final welding it. Pretty much 75% of it. So I had a major failure with some videos and I have zero footage, and I don't think it's really worth voicing over. I don't really have a great mic setup. So this is where we're at with the car. The firewall is done, obviously, and I had some footage with the fuel cell mount, which is a pretty simple design. It just looks kind of cool because it's within that firewall there. And then this structure coming down, which I'm gonna keep doing, and that'll be in the next video, building the bash bars off of that, and the rear mounted radiator is gonna go back here. But here's a sneak peek. We got the fuel cell mounted and cradled real nice like. It's super sturdy. The firewall is done. I got our dry brake set up, installed, and mocked. So that's gonna come down here through this cutout and go to the top hat or whatever it's called. Welded what I could. Little gaps here and there are gonna get filled once the car is powder coated. But here's how this setup looks. Inside looks pretty much the same. Haven't really touched it. I've been working on the fuel cell area. Again, thank you for those of you that have been watching these videos. If you enjoy this sort of content, check out the rest of my channel. But until then, I'm gonna keep working on this thing, and if you're interested in what I've been doing here, consider subscribing and waiting till the next video. Thank you.